Okay. Perfect. So for today, I can kind of take this in any direction. I want to make sure that folks that are on the call today or on this session today get any questions answered. If there's any top questions that you all have top of mind, if there's any things you've been hearing about throughout the rest of the event today that you wanted to maybe circle back to, I'm here to answer any questions or kind of follow the lead of folks in the session. So are there any questions? I'll take a look at the chat to see if there are any. Any questions from the group? Any topics you'd be interested in either hearing about or seeing? I'm here just to kind of have this be an open Q&A. Analytics. Okay, Heather, thank you for jumping in and being brave. I appreciate it. What about analytics? Tell me a little bit more. Are you looking for more information about what exists currently, what's on the roadmap for a few different analytics offerings? What kind of use cases do you have in mind? And for those that aren't familiar, there is a live, if you look at the right, there is a little lightning bolt icon. And that would give you the chat. So that's where that information would go. Okay, so new analytics at the course level, but not new institutional level options. Okay, awesome. We could talk through some of that. Heather, now since you're the brave one, I'm going to just pick on you. Could you tell me a little bit about your role? Are you an admin for a particular sub-account, account? Oh, okay, perfect. So I will then talk a little bit about some of the admin analytics dashboards that exist and maybe potentially some use cases where they might be applicable. Admin analytics, as a reminder, is a feature option that sometimes get brought into programmatic questions. Yeah, so I'll do a little walkthrough of the dashboards we have currently in admin analytics. I can also speak a little bit to some of the things that are coming out, hopefully later this year. You'll probably hear more if you're attending InstructureCon. You'll probably hear more about some of these things in more detail, but I can give you a little bit of a heads up about some things coming up. But I will start by just kind of walking through admin analytics just to give an idea of what is available and ways that this maybe could accommodate some of the use cases that you're all working through currently. So I'm going to share my screen. I'll start there. Let's do share screen. Okay. So for this, I'm going to hop into, and can everybody see my screen okay? Yes, awesome. Okay, thanks, Amy. Thanks, Michael and Mark. Lots of familiar names. This is fun. Okay, so admin analytics is something that can be turned on or off at the root account level. So root account level admins have access to that. And then based on the settings that your root account team has set for you, you may or may not have access to admin analytics. If you do not have access to any of the things I'm sharing today, you'll want to work with your main Canvas LMS team to explore potentially using this. Now, some institutions have specific reasons why they haven't jumped into admin analytics yet, and that's totally fine. You'll just want to make sure you work with them. Okay, so once admin analytics is available and you have the permissions to use it, as an admin, you would, as you saw, I went to my admin account. I'm in my sandbox. Obviously, I'm not going to show live data. That wouldn't be very responsible. But I'm going to show you my sandbox. So keep in mind, it's my sandbox. It's not going to be pretty or that elaborate or realistic, but it'll kind of walk you through what's available. So you'll see admin analytics as a navigation item, not global navigation, but admin navigation. If you click on that, we'll see if my Wi-Fi holds tight. My internet's been really fun today. Okay, great. So there's three essential dashboards or three tabs you have of different dashboards. The first one is an overview. This is what's gonna pop up as you saw by default. And this is gonna allow you at the admin level, right? So depending on what level you're at, either the root account or particular sub account, it'll show you some basic information. It'll show you the number of courses with a particular course status, number of enrolled students with or without activity. And as you can see, there's a few others here: average course grades, interactions by category, interactions over time. And next to all of them, you'll see this little eye icon. And if you hover over it, it gives you a tooltip of what this means and what it's showing you. Before I talk through what different dashboards might make most sense for you and some of your initiatives, I do want to just quickly move to the filtering options that you have. This is something that I think is really important to get you the exact data you're looking for. So you can search by particular sub accounts. So if you know you only want to look at at maybe like a group of 3, you could select those particular sub accounts, or you can select all of them. It's kind of up to you. Just depends what you need. I'm going to select all because I have a limited amount of data in the sandbox. You can also search by term, which also helps filter down to the exact time frame you're looking to explore. You can even search as granularly as by course, individual course, or was there a comment in there? Sorry about that. Or you can search by individual instructor if that is what you're looking to do. And then this allows you to filter what kind of course status. So let's say you're tasked with looking at current courses in your current term. You would want to go, I don't have this, but you would want to go to what are we in? Spring 2024. And then you would want to pick published with activity. You want to see what active courses are going on and what those look like. You can also filter by course start date. So if your institution doesn't utilize terms as heavily as maybe other institutions, you can also search by course start date if that is how you control the access to your courses. There's also course activity criteria, so you can really diligently tell Canvas, what do I consider as an active user? So that is another nice enhancement here. So once you apply all those filters, you'll see these dashboards update according to those filters, and you'll see those filter values appear here so you don't forget what you exactly picked. You could see here there's a show filter detail. Again, I didn't save any of those, so mine's not going to show here. So like I said, there's this overview page, and then you can also drill down into course data. And so this is something I know as a CSM for Canvas, I talk a lot about with my clients, or my clients are constantly looking for things on this page. I think this is a really common one. And what's nice about this is you can see what kinds of features are being utilized within courses based on the parameters you set. And I apologize, I'm going to get my phone charger down here before my computer dies. So here, if you clicked in, so a common use case here is I want to know, we're starting to think about our plans to moving to new quizzes. We want to know who's using new quizzes and who's using classic. Well, what this allows you to do is click on the tool that you want to explore, and you'll see a drilled down report of all the courses that are utilizing that particular feature. So using the example I just did, we're starting to talk about promoting new quizzes. We want to see who hasn't really started using it yet, and we want to target our communication to them. You could pull up, like I just did, the list of courses that are utilizing classic quizzes, download this list, and then work with those instructors or departments accordingly to provide training or clear communication. So I'm going to pause there before I start talking about more information. Was this helpful, or is there any specific questions that I could answer on what I've shown so far? I'm going to check the chat here. Let's see. It looks like one person mentioned it would be good to include the course Canvas ID on those CSV downloads. And I want to say it might do that. Let me check here really quick and see all that it shows. I'm going to download it into an Excel spreadsheet. It doesn't say the Canvas ID, actually. That's a really great... Let's see what happens when I click on this, open in Canvas. Yeah, that's a great call out, including Canvas ID on some of those downloads to have a little bit more information. I can pass that feedback along. Great, thank you so much. I'm going to take a few notes here actually as well and just make sure that I'm not missing any feedback, because that's a really good call out. Okay. Other questions? Is there outcomes data in there? Yes, there is. Let me bounce back to that. So you can see which courses are utilizing outcomes here, but I don't think that's what exactly you're targeting. You're looking to see what kind of outcomes data there is. So let's take a look in the students. Okay, let's see. Actually, I'm not sure. Let me look and see if there's anything about outcomes in particular. Large course grade. That's looking at more student behavior. Let's go back to the overview tab. Corrections over time. So I'm not seeing specific outcomes information. Heather, I might have to do some follow-up, and then I can work with your CSM to follow up with you. I'm not seeing anything specific to outcomes in admin analytics outside of the reporting that's available under the reports tab of your account settings. But we could do a little follow-up on that. So I'll make a note to follow up with you. Follow up on upcoming outcomes. Okay. Are there plans to, there is another question on the front of outcomes. What is the plan for any improvements to outcomes? So while we're talking about outcomes, we have some enhancements coming right now to rubrics, and this is something that we're actually supposed to get updates from product on hopefully this week. So keep your CSMs in the loop if you do have that same question. So there was a rubrics redesign blog post that came out. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to that really quick, just since we're on kind of the same front of outcomes. So this isn't necessarily outcomes in particular, but this is rubrics, which are attached to outcomes more often. Let me go ahead and I'm going to stop presenting and re-share my screen to, where is that? Hold on here. Oops, hold on one second. This is not the right rubrics. Oh, here we go. This is the one I pulled up the wrong blog. Sorry, everybody. One second. Okay. So this is a blog post that came out towards the end of last year. And like I mentioned, our product specialist should be meeting with this product manager this week to get an update of where things sit, as far as when we can start seeing things roll out or become available for testing in beta. But there are a number of items that are a part of the phase one for our rubrics redesign. And I don't know if you can see all of them here. I will also drop this link into the chat. So if anybody does want to check this out, you could see some of the individual things that are projected to change in Canvas's rubrics functionality. Some of the things to highlight based on feedback I've heard through the years of working with higher ed institutions has been the rubric design process is kind of clunky. It's hard to move criteria around. If you add something in the wrong place, you kind of have to restart, or it's a huge lift to change. So some of the updates that they're talking about in this blog is easier creation. So dragging and dropping the order, the rating order or criteria arrangement, and things like that. There's talk about copying or duplicating criteria. There's different displays they're talking about. And then there's a phase two that will come later on. And that includes downloading your rubric importing, and things like that. So there's a number of different things coming here. So I would check that out. And then, like I said, more to come on when we can start seeing these things available for you to start testing out. And I'm going to go back a moment because I definitely missed a few questions. So Sean Geller asked, are there any plans to add mastery paths usage into admin analytics? And Sean, I will Double check. I am not aware of any changes, but that is not to say there hasn't been discussion about it. So we'll follow up with you on that. Okay, I'm just going through the questions here. There's another one from Jeff Friels. Oh, I can have people on stage to ask questions. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how I ended up on the stage, but Jeff has a hand up.
Okay. Let's see here. Jeff, I'm going to let you ask this question, and then Renee will move to you.
It's blurring me. It's weird.
It's not blurring your background, Jeff.
It's blurring me. Yeah, it's blurring me. I don't know. Whatever. So I know it's kind of a complicated question. I'm glad you mentioned the stuff about rubrics. That deals with part of my question. My other one relates to outcomes and item banks. So some may know that it's difficult to impossible to connect items within item banks to outcomes. It makes it very challenging. We've had some use cases where we've had to go back and revert new quizzes to classic quizzes in order to use item banks. You know, that functionality makes it really difficult. Yeah, I'm at UT Austin, and we have large classes, obviously, and we need to do multiple choice testing in places like that. What are the plans to improve are there any plans to improve functionality between outcomes in particular and item banks, and just item banks and new quizzes more generally?
Great question, Jeff. And Jeff, hi, I am your CSM, so I'm the right person to follow up with you on this. I know right now there is some work being done in new quizzes to attach sub-account level outcomes to item banks, but I would have to look into that more to see what specific issues you're running into and see what we might be planning on to resolve. Can you tell me a little bit more about the issues you're running into when you do connect an outcome to an item bank, and what kind of behavior you're noticing?
It's challenging. That I have a team. One of my reports is the one who's our expert in this, but basically it's just that you can't connect items within an item bank to new quizzes, so we can't do basically mass data collection. I wish I could be more specific. Okay. I can get more information from him and follow up.
Okay. That would be great. Yeah, Jeff, if you don't mind, because I'd like to look at that a little bit, because from there we can then target how we want to follow up with product. If there is something that may be contradictory to our documentation or something like that, we would want to go through support. But if it is simply just a functionality gap, we can then look at, I can then target those types of questions with product to see what their plans are to try to enhance that experience.
Very good. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
I work close. If you want to connect with me offline, I'm not sure I can drop you my email if that helps. I'll try to figure out how to do that so it's not like public, so people don't feel like they have to reach out. You can always reach out to me if you'd like, but I'll reach out to you and we'll get that conversation going. Thanks for bringing that up.
I don't care if people reach out to me, so I'll put my email in the chat and you can.
Right. People can reach out to me too. I mean, you have your own CSM who you probably like more though, so I'm sure you'd rather go to them, but okay, some improvements to outcomes. Lots of questions on outcomes. Thanks, Jeff. I'm going to grab your email. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, Mark. Hi, Mark. Mark Reynolds says, it's refreshing to see Instructure admit their idea structure wasn't working and that there are plans to overhaul it. I've been critical of it for a while. Yeah, so what Mark pointed out, I'm not sure if everybody on the call saw this today, or not today, I think it was last week, Mark. I think, what is time? We came out, and I'm actually going to find that blog post, and I'm also going to post it because it is, I think, a really great one. And if you haven't seen it, I think it's worth a read. Absolutely. And I always encourage folks to add comments to these blog posts from our product team because it's a great way to interact directly with product. So this is a follow-up to what Mark posted in the chat, if you're following the chat. So Sharon, our Chief Product Officer, about a week or so ago, put out a blog post acknowledging that the themes and ideas process we rolled out about 1.5 years, 2 years ago isn't working the way we had hoped it would. And so what we're trying to do now is pivot and figure out ways that we can better collect information and feedback from our Canvas users via the community. So what you'll see in this blog post is just some more information into that, and then next steps and what you can be waiting to hear from us on. So in that blog post, he talks a little bit about, there's different ways we need to develop certain things based on like what kind of impact those changes make. Are they small? Are they big overhauls? And so we need to be mindful of those differences when we're collecting feedback. There shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all approach for how we collect that feedback. So hopefully, we're able to make some adjustments that make it feel easier for you to contribute to our roadmap and to feel heard. I think that's, from a CSM perspective, the thing I care most about is if folks are going to spend their time submitting ideas and collaborating, let's have some really good conversation. And if we can't build that right away, let's talk about it and give more context as to why and what we are going to work on instead. So yeah, I echo Mark's sentiment. I was happy to see this and excited that we're looking to see what else is out there. The next question I see after Mark's, will new quizzes be included in Canvas data now that new quizzes API is supported? Yes, Canvas data will support new quizzes. I unfortunately don't have a timeline update on that, but that is still projected work that we plan to do. So more to come on that. I apologize, I don't have a better timeline for you. Anyone want to jump into the stage and ask your question live, or? Okay. And in case you guys are thinking about what questions or things you want to hear, Renee, do you have a question or thing?
I actually have a question. Kaltura seems to just putting people on the stage at random, like their meeting platform. Like I logged in and it just put me up here.
Okay.
I'm presenting tomorrow, so I'm wondering if that's why. But I'm just saying hi. Our CSM is, I'm in Indiana. Our CSM is Steven. So I was just like, I'm going to come say howdy and see who's in the room. I should be able to leave the stage. Cool. This is getting awkward. Not
it's scarier than it really is. When I was joining, it said stage here. You want me to remove you? I can.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Hi. I don't actually have questions.
Okay.
Although there's more stuff going on, and my colleague Peter.
Did I miss something?
Is talking about the item bank. Oh yeah. Do you want me to bring up the item bank new quizzes thing? If anyone wants to. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a presenter tomorrow, so I'm wondering if that's auto adding me to the stage, which is awkward.
Well, we could talk about the item bank things. I know I'm familiar with Indiana's reports a bit. I have a few other customers that I'm tracking that same ticket for. We could talk about that here. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has. It's a new quizzes item banks issue. For anyone who doesn't know about it, there are instructors adding images to new quizzes and then in an item bank, and that image lives in the Canvas site that they originally created in. So when they copy it to a new site in a new term, it's referring back to the previous site rather than giving the students permission to view that image, which means they can't see it. And so it's the analogy has been ticking time bomb because people don't know until another semester later when a student is taking a graded assessment, in some cases going, I don't see any pictures in this graph question. Why can't I see the image? And so that's something that's being dug into right now. And so if anyone else, if you have that ticket and anyone else has, or a place where anyone else can add comments to that, and you could share it, that'd be great. If anyone else has experienced this, we're preparing to reach out to faculty who we think are impacted to get them to kind of check. And Lynn Ward from our team has been doing a lot of digging and found a number of cases where this is likely to happen.
To throw some more into that, and I'm not sure if it's exactly the same problem. We seem to be having problems with images. Sometimes they break without using Lockdown Browser in new quizzes, but sometimes they do seem to break either way. And is this the same problem where the workaround is supposed to be that you put your image files in personal files and then link them from there rather than from a course?
It's similar. Hi, by the way. It's similar but different. So I'm going to add two things in the chat, and this is more educational. If you all are noticing this, if anyone else is noticing it, similarly to what Renee and team have done, get tickets to support, even if it's a known issue. We want to make sure that number one, we're collecting relevant information of like how many people it's impacting, and then we can communicate with you as fixes are developed. So the first one I'm going to share in the chat here is the one Indiana is referring to that has to do with banks and images breaking during like the course copy process or if a previous course is deleted. So this is the first one. And then the one Guy's talking about is similar. Let me find it. It should be in the known issues page. Just give me 1 second to find it. This is the one Guy is talking about from Missouri. Issue Missouri is tracking. Is this one. So these are both issues that have actually been going up to our architects. So starting with that first one that is impacted based on original course materials being deleted. That is with our architecture team. New quizzes, it's even above their heads as far as it's a issue we need to fix with the structure of how item banks are processing images. And support could probably tell you a much more eloquent like synopsis of the problem from a technical perspective. But that is something that is very high in priority for all of us. I know Stephen, Indiana CSM, myself, and several of my peers have been tracking that pretty closely. Been escalated through leadership, engineering leadership, architecture leadership, of course, our customer success leadership. So we understand how critical that is, especially, the point made that it's hard for instructors to see that until the student reports it broken. So that one is definitely being escalated, as is the Respondus one. The Respondus issue that Guy was just talking about a little bit. My understanding of it is it's a little bit more, it's similar, but it also has to do with the types of cookies that are being transferred between Lockdown Browser and Canvas New Quizzes. So it's a little bit different, Guy, but also a huge priority and something that we're trying to look into and figure out a larger solution for.
Do we notice it affect any of the other processing softwares or thing?
I haven't been made aware, but that does not mean there isn't something else. I'm only seeing in the known issues page too. I think I'm only seeing with Lockdown Browser based on how Lockdown Browser's built out.
Okay.
Okay, and I feel like I'm probably missing a few questions. Okay, I think that's any other. But like I said, so I guess if you are worried about this and you're noticing it, get a ticket in. Our agents should be attaching it to these two known issues. Let your CSM know so that we can also keep a special ear out and update you as soon as we have information to share. And like I said, both have been escalated, both from the CS side and product side, to try to get a solution as quickly as possible. So more to come on that, but unfortunately, those are two issues we're definitely tracking. Someone else asked, Rin Thomas asked, what's the process like for Instructure to approve or deny feature requests that get uploaded? Sorry, my chat moved. Uploaded to the Canvas Community Forums blogs. So Rin, this is changing a little bit now, but typically we would, look through. I guess let me just talk about what we've done at the last year and a half, 2 years with the themes. So we've taken themes and basically we went through all the old ideas that existed, any ones that were deployed or no longer relevant. There were certain qualifications that the community team had. I unfortunately don't know this off the top of my head, but basically all the ones that remained open from when we started the ideas and themes process, all ideas were lumped into some kind of a theme, and then product managers and product operations would go through and they would basically attach all these different ideas to themes. Then they would go through, and I don't know all the ins and outs. This would be more of a product question, but they would basically come up with a list of themes that they were wanting to potentially work on, and they would open it up for voting. Some of the decisions were made based on votes, but not all. That was not the only thing to take into account. So they looked at what their bandwidth was, what their engineering teams could take on respectively, and then announced those themes would be worked on. That is the process. A few minutes ago, I'm not sure if you caught that part of the conversation, but that is the process we're going to change because that just wasn't working the way we had originally thought. The idea with themes was, let's not target individual issues people are talking about. Let's look at collectively what problem is this request trying to solve and go that route. But what we found out, which was noted in that blog post, was it's not a one size fits all. There's not one perfect way to collect this information, and we need to be more strategic about how we're collecting info and why. So that themes and ideas process is changing. More to come on what that'll look like. I'm not familiar with what some of those next steps are. Okay. Canvas themes, using Canvas, can go visit another booth. Thanks, Anna. No problem, Renee. Ren, you are so welcome. Anyone else want to jump on stage and ask a question or any topics you'd like to cover? Otherwise, I actually might bounce back to the admin analytics discussion. So like I showed you, there's those 3 main tabs. We are also something to keep an eye out for. You'll hear more about it later this year. They're not available right now, but something that we are looking forward to launching is a new premium reporting option for 2 bundles. So it's a bundled report. One report is students in need of attention and course readiness. Like I said, more to come. I don't have all the information that's sort of being worked out right now, but they built out 2 reports to help administrators track 2 things: the readiness of a course, how are instructors setting up their course, and then students in need of attention. So almost like, we're not going to call it an early alert type of software, but I feel like that's the buzzword that was used back a few years ago. But looking at students' behavior in their courses and seeing if there is a student that may need some additional interaction or additional assistance. So those are some additional reporting that we've been working on and hope to be able to share more about this summer. So that's another thing I just wanted to chime in there. And if you are interested in that, let your CSM know, and he or she can keep you in the loop as more information becomes available. Bye, Mark. Anything else? Anyone else have any other questions or topics burning that you wanted to talk through?
Hi, Anna. This is Bart.
Hi, Bart. Hi.
I'm following up the question earlier about prioritization and things along those lines with features and themes. I was just curious, same question, but with bugs. Like, how do you go about prioritizing, which bugs get addressed in order?
I think that's $1 million question, Bart. And I don't know if I have the full answer, but I can tell you what I've seen and kind of like the little pieces. I'm sure engineering would prefer to give you their more structured answer, but I can kind of speak to, like, as a CSM, what I've typically seen. So, every engineering team we all work on sprints. We all have like the same fundamental development cycle process, but everyone has like slightly different timing. So depending on when each team seems to have like their own time of the sprint where they take bugs, and these aren't critical bugs, right? Like if Canvas is something crazy is happening and like new quizzes isn't working, like they're going to jump on it. But like your typical bug, like it's annoying, there's a workaround, but we have to fix it. They get to it within a time of their sprint. And then obviously they work on it as quickly as they can. It goes through QA, and then usually it goes through the regular release cycle. So it'll come out 2 weeks prior to the deploy it gets released in. There are also times where something will be hot fixed. And again, that kind of goes back to like one of those core things that are breaking. It's like a really critical break. And we get a special approval to hot fix it, which means it goes through QA. We run it through beta really quick to make sure it's not going to cause any adverse effects, and then it hits production. But otherwise, I think each team has their own like rubric. I don't know if that's the terminology they use to determine what makes something critical versus not. What we always say is if there is something that's impacting a huge number of your students or instructors or courses, let your CSM know and we can always push, because sometimes something may not seem super critical that ends up being a really big deal. So that's where you could use your CSMs and our teams as advocates for you. So if you're ever like, this needs to get some attention, we can at least reach out and understand maybe where it sits in the queue. Does that kind of help, Bart?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like different products, different engineering teams on products, and they have what works for them, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder too, Bart, I'll look at this. I'm going to add this to my follow-up list. I wonder if we have anything that kind of talks through that publicly, because I feel like that would be helpful. Because that's definitely something that comes up a fair amount. Like I said, every team does something differently. So even if we had like general guidelines of what our clients could expect, I'm sure that would be really helpful. I'm sure everyone would appreciate that. So I'll have that as a follow-up. Okay. All right. Well, I might just start, since we have time, I might just run through a few things that are coming out that I think are really cool. Would that be helpful? Decent? Okay. And this is what
That would be good.
This is what's cool based on Anna Lindsay's thought. So this is I'm sure everyone thinks everything's cool, but I'm going to talk about what I think is cool. So one thing, let me pull it up. It's actually going to come out in April. Let me find it. If you read the April release notes, you've already seen it, but I'm going to talk about it because I think it's really cool. So I'm going to reshare my screen and highlight a new feature option you're going to see on April 20th. So this will be at the root account level, and it will be called mobile offline support. When this is enabled, it's either enabled or disabled, but when it's enabled, students can download their course materials in the student app for offline use. Meaning if they're going to be in a location that doesn't offer great reliable internet or Wi-Fi, if they are going to be traveling, if you have a student athlete that's flying for their March Madness tournament, they can't get to the internet, so they want to download some things offline. You can think of a million different use cases, both for an equity standpoint and for just a convenience standpoint. So what this would then allow them to do, I'm going to pull up the student release notes. I'm just going to use iOS as my example for today. I apologize if you're Android users. We also have notes on that too. But once that feature option is enabled at your root account level, students can then go to the student app, and when they enter their dashboards, I'm in the wrong place. That's what I want to do. So when students are in their dashboard, they'll go to the top right 3 vertical line. We call that the kebab menu. At least we used to call it the kebab menu. And then they are prompted to manage offline content. And they can either select entire courses or elements of particular courses that they want to download for offline use. Once they select those options and they click sync, it notifies them, hey, this is going to sync X amount of content, warns them if you go over storage, there could be charges. So it gives you that like typical spiel that most apps give you when you download something. You'll see it syncing, and once it syncs, if you're still connected to internet, you really won't notice anything. Everything's still there for you. But as soon as you lose that internet connection, you'll notice that everything other than what you've downloaded is grayed out. So whether that be the entire course, or if you were to click into that course and see only particular items. So for example, if I only wanted to download my pages, that's all I want. I want to just catch up on my course material while I'm traveling. I'd be able to read just those pages, and then everything else would be offline. A few notes I'll make on this. This is strictly for content to be consumed. This is not going to allow students to submit assignments. It's not going to allow them to submit quizzing or participate in discussions. This is simply allowing them to read, what pages, look at files, review assignment prompts, quiz, due dates and point values, but it's not going to let them participate the way that they could once they have the internet connection. So I will pause there and see if anyone has any questions or thoughts.
So I'm guessing then as soon as they do get an internet connection and have that app open, it would automatically update.
It should. Yep. It would just resume business as usual.
Okay. I guess my one question is, and it sounds like maybe it's covered, but is there any danger of students basically having old information cached when they're trying to study and things and not realizing it? Is there what kind of an indication is there that it's offline?
So when it's offline, and Guy can actually share. I made a little screencast I could share with you later,
Okay.
show you how it looks. But essentially, it's very so. Okay, there's two questions. There's two answers to your comment there. First one is yes, there is a risk there could be outdated content. So if I were to, let's say Thursday, I downloaded my course, and the Instructure made Instructure. Can you tell I work here? Instructor made content changes on Saturday when I didn't have service and I was looking through my pages that I had downloaded on Thursday. Yeah, the change that instructor made while I was offline wouldn't sync. So that there is that risk, but it should be keeping up. I'd have to do more testing, admittedly. I have done some testing, but you would probably want to do a little more testing just to see if there's any other weird caveats. But yeah, so like it is going to take that copy. Once you go offline, it's going to sync with the latest version of whatever that material is. But it won't update while you're offline. And then in addition to that, it is very clear when you are offline. So like I said, everything that you have not downloaded is grayed out. And if you were to click, so let's say I wanted to only download like pages for my course and I didn't download anything else. But let's say when I'm offline, I go to click on assignments, it's going to give me a little pop-up that says this action's not available in offline mode. There's also a bar at the bottom that says offline with like a little internet disconnection icon. That's how I would describe it. So, and then like if let's say I did download my quizzes, and then I go to click on like start a quiz, it's not going to let me, it's going to say action unavailable in offline mode. So it's pretty clear that these behaviors aren't going to take place.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So that's a really exciting update. There was also another blog that came out last week from Allison Howell. She's one of our product managers who's working on the module selective release. I'm not sure if anybody here has seen that. That sound familiar to anybody in the group? Yeah, okay. For those that haven't seen it, I'm going to just add another blog post because I feel like that's what I do these days. We have such good ones coming out lately from the product blogs, so I like to call attention to those. Let me find this one, modules. So I'm going to share this blog with the chat here. This is another one I would actually check out if you have a few minutes. This is selective release. This has been in the roadmap for a little bit now. But essentially what we're doing is we're allowing instructors to release modules to different to different students or to different sections. So if you want to have differentiated learning, you want one section to have access to module content sooner than, the section after it, you can make those changes. So this blog post gives you a few screenshots, gives you sort of a why we're doing this, and then more information to come. This is currently on our roadmap for Q2, which for Instructure is just like your standard quarter system. So that's April through June. So as soon as there's more information available or as soon as it's coming to beta for you to begin testing, we'll be sure to put those in release notes and things like that. And your CSM will likely share with you or highlight those different changes. So that's another thing we're really excited to see come out. Okay, those are some of the main things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Any other questions, comments? Things you want me to cover today? Okay. All right. Well, I know we are about up of time or just over, so I think that concludes our little speed dating session. But thank you for everyone who joined. Guy, thanks for sitting up here with me. Much appreciated. Okay, well, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Have a great event, and we will talk soon. Okay, bye, everybody.